Hey there, coin hunters. Imagine this: you're at the kitchen table, flipping through your change jar, thinking, there's gotta be something valuable in here. You pick up a 1970 Jefferson nickel, give it a quick glance, and think, it's just another nickel. But, what if I told you that this very coin, this humble little nickel, could be worth a small fortune? Yeah, I know it sounds too good to be true, but trust me, the 1970 Jefferson nickel has some surprising potential. We're talking up to $2 million. No, I didn't stutter, $2 million. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you might just be looking at your pocket change in a whole new way. Alright, let's break it down. The 1970 Jefferson nickel is part of the regular series, which is not too exciting, right? I mean, it's got Thomas Jefferson on one side and Monticello on the other, nothing super special there, at least at first glance. But here's the catch: some of these nickels are rare because of minting errors. Yeah, you heard me right, minting errors. That means some of these nickels were produced with weird, wacky, and unusual features that make them incredibly valuable today. One of the most famous 1970 Jefferson nickels is the one that was mistakenly struck with a double die error. This happens when the die used to stamp the coin is misaligned, which results in a second, slightly off-center impression of the design. Sounds like something you'd expect from a coin fail meme, right? But that error made these nickels stand out and sent collectors into a frenzy. Now, how in the world do you find one of these rare beauties? Well, the first step is simply knowing what to look for. These error coins are harder to spot than you might think, especially if you're just casually scanning your pocket change. The double die error is most noticeable on the letters "In Liberty" and "In God We Trust," where they appear doubled or shadowed. It's like a ghost of Jefferson's face, spooky but valuable. If you find one with a clear double die, it's worth significantly more than face value. Some of these can sell for up to $2 million in perfect condition. Pretty crazy, right? I'll be honest with you, I didn't believe it when I first heard about these rare nickels. In fact, I remember finding a couple of 1,970 nickels in my change jar, and I tossed them aside. The whole valuable coin thing seemed like a myth to me, until a buddy of mine showed me one of these rare double die errors. It was the real deal, and he made a hefty profit from it. Needless to say, I've been a lot more careful about what I toss into my spare change jar ever since. If you're looking to spot one of these valuable coins, here's a tip: don't just look at the coin's year. Check the mint mark too. Some of the 1970 nickels were struck in the Denver Mint, and those with the right errors are where the real money's at. If you've got one with a D mint mark, it's worth spending a little more time inspecting for any doubling on the design. And don't be afraid to take it to a professional coin dealer if you think you've got a winner. Believe me, it'll be worth the effort. And one last thing, these rare nickels aren't the only ones out there. You can find all kinds of coins with minting errors that could lead to big paydays. I've made a habit of checking every coin I get from my pocket change, and so should you. You never know when you'll stumble across the next $2 million nickel. Or maybe you'll find a rare penny that's worth more than your car. It happens. So, next time you're sitting there with your change jar, remember, that 1970 Jefferson nickel could be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. Who knew that some old pocket change could turn into a small fortune? You've got to be on the lookout, be patient, and maybe, just maybe, your next boring nickel could make you a millionaire. And hey, if you enjoyed this little coin hunt, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on more tips and tricks for finding coins worth money. Trust me, there's a lot more where that came from. Next week, I'll be diving into another coin that could blow your mind and your wallet. Catch you in the next one, and remember, keep hunting those rare coins, because you never know when you'll strike gold. Did you know that a simple nickel could be worth more than a used car? No, I'm not talking about the one you find at the bottom of your couch cushions. I'm talking about the 1971 Jefferson nickel. Stick with me here, this is one story that could change your life, or at least your bank account. So grab your favorite snack, get comfy, and let's dive into why this little coin could be worth a whopping $1.8 million. You might have one just sitting in your change jar, and trust me, you'll want to check after hearing this. Now, before you run off to check your pocket change, let's break down exactly why the 1971 Jefferson nickel is so valuable. First things first, it's not just any 1971 nickel. It's the rare variety, which might just be hiding somewhere in your coin collection without you even knowing it. Here's the deal, the 1971 Jefferson nickel has a special trait, an error in the minting process, which means a few coins were made with the wrong type of metal. Instead of the standard copper-nickel blend, some of these nickels were accidentally made with a different alloy. And when that mistake happened, well, the value of those coins shot through the roof. So, why should you care? Because if you've got one of these special 1971 nickels tucked away, you might be sitting on a literal gold mine. Or, nickel mine. Let me take you back to a time when I thought I had the world's most valuable coin. I was about 12 years old, and I found this rare penny at the bottom of a change bucket at a garage sale. I thought it was some kind of hidden treasure. Fast forward to me, proudly showing it off at my school talent show, only to discover it was worth about a penny. And I'm not just talking about the face value, I mean, it was actually worth less than a penny because it was so worn out that I learned that day that not all old coins are automatically valuable. But when it comes to the 1971 Jefferson nickel, you really do want to check for those specific minting errors. Not all of them are worth $1.8 million, but some of them are in the ballpark of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's kind of like finding that rare trading card. 1 minute, you're just flipping through a binder, and the next thing you know, you're holding a little piece of history. Okay, so where do you find one of these bad boys? The key is looking for the mint error, so if you see anything that looks slightly off with the metal or the markings, it's worth a closer look. And don't just check your loose change. Sometimes these rare coins can pop up in unexpected places, like estate sales or coin shows. You'll want to check the details like the date, mint mark, and wait to make sure it's not just another regular 1971 nickel. And if you think you found something special, make sure to get it evaluated by an expert before you start dreaming of buying that new car. So, what's the takeaway here? Never underestimate the value of a nickel. With the 1971 Jefferson nickel, you could be holding on to something worth millions, literally. Before you go and start digging through your couch cushions or raiding your piggy bank, make sure to give that 1971 nickel a second glance. Who knows? That little coin might just be worth more than the change in your wallet. If you've enjoyed this coin treasure hunt and want more tips on how to spot rare coins that could make you a fortune, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. I'm always here with more tips, tricks, and strategies for finding hidden gems in the world of coins. If you've got a nickel in your pocket right now, you might want to give it a second glance. No, seriously. I'm not talking about the kind of nickel you toss in the tip jar at your local coffee shop. I'm talking about the legendary 1972 Jefferson nickel that could be worth, wait for it, $1.6 million. Yes, you heard that right. $1.6 million. Now, before you start checking your coin jar like you're hunting for hidden treasure, let me tell you exactly how this happened and why this nickel is the real deal. Stick around, cause you're about to learn the shocking details behind this rare gem, and who knows, maybe you'll be the lucky one to find it. So, you're probably thinking, how in the world could a nickel be worth over $1 million? I get it. When we hear about big money coins, we tend to think of those fancy gold ones or silver dollars with a long history. But nope, the 1972 Jefferson nickel made waves for all the right and unexpected reasons. Here's the deal, in 1972, the U.S. Mint accidentally produced a small batch of nickels with a double die error. Basically, the coins were stamped incorrectly, leaving them with some very noticeable doubled features. Normally, these errors are rare, but this one was special. And of course, it wasn't noticed right away. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's cool, but how do I know if my 1972 nickel is one of these $1 million beauties? Well, let's talk about what to look for. The key giveaway is the double image on the obverse. that's the side with Thomas Jefferson's face. If you've got a nickel that shows a slight double stamp on the date or the word Liberty, congratulations. You've got yourself a potential goldmine. You'll also want to check for any doubling on the reverse side, particularly around the word Monticello. Now, let me tell you, this whole thing reminds me of a time when I thought I found a rare coin in my own collection. A few years ago, I was going through some old coins I inherited from my grandfather, who was way too busy collecting baseball cards, but hey, that's another story. I came across a 1943 copper penny. It looked so good, I thought, this has to be worth a fortune. Turns out, I got my hopes up too high, it was just a regular penny. Not even worth a whole dollar, haha. But hey, it still looks cool, right? So, as I learned the hard way, it's important to know what you're looking for. And trust me, when it comes to the 1972 Jefferson nickel, you want to be extra careful when inspecting it. The difference between a $1.6 million coin and a regular nickel can be pretty subtle, but it's worth the time to check. And if you're lucky enough to have one of these coins, what should you do next? First off, don't just go around flashing it like you're the king of coins. Get it appraised by a professional who specializes in rare coins. If it turns out that you've hit the jackpot, then you might want to keep it locked up in a safe, or even better, head straight to the auction house where big money changes hands. Alright, I know this whole $1.6 million coin thing sounds wild, but it's absolutely true. The 1972 Jefferson nickel with that double die error is a once-in-a-lifetime find. And if you've got one, you might just be sitting on a fortune, but here's the kicker, whether you've got one of these rare nickels or not, there are plenty of other coins out there that could be worth way more than you think. And I'm here to make sure you don't miss out on those opportunities. Now, I know what you're thinking, a Jefferson nickel. Really? But hold on to your piggy banks because what I'm about to tell you might just make you look at that pile of change you've got lying around in a whole new way. Imagine finding a coin that's worth $1.5 million. Yep, you heard that right. And no, it's not a rare gold coin or something from ancient Rome. It's a 1973 Jefferson nickel. Crazy, right? So grab your magnifying glass, because today we're diving into how that 1973 nickel could be your golden ticket. You might just have one of these sitting in your pocket change. But before we get started, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more tips that could turn your spare change into a small fortune. Alright, let's get to the fun part. The 1973 Jefferson nickel isn't your average pocket change. It's actually become a collector's dream and a serious moneymaker. The story behind its value? Well, it all boils down to a small but extremely important mistake. But before I get too technical on you, let me hit you with a quick history lesson. Stay with me, it won't be boring, I promise. Back in 1973, the U.S. Mint was pumping out nickels like it was going out of style. But here's the thing, they were experimenting with some new equipment and got a little sloppy with the minting process. As a result, a few of these nickels were struck with an error that made them not just valuable, but extremely valuable. What's so special about this mistake? Well, these nickels were supposed to have a regular nickel composition, 75% copper, 25% nickel, but because of a minting error, some of them were accidentally made with the wrong metal content. The error made these coins slightly more rare, and, as with all things rare, that means their value skyrocketed. So, how does a 1973 nickel go from a measly 5 cents to a jaw-dropping $1.5 million? Well, it's all about the rarity. Only a handful of these wrong metal nickels made it into circulation, and those few coins are what collectors are hunting for. The $1.5 million nickel, for instance, is a specimen that was discovered in mint condition. It was like finding a diamond in a haystack, and now it's sitting pretty in a private collection. Now, you might be thinking, do I have one of these? Well, you'll need to check a few things. First, take a look at the weight. These error coins are slightly heavier than normal nickels due to the wrong mix of metals. It's not just a tiny difference either. If you have one of these in your hands, you'll definitely be able to feel it. Also, look for any signs of strange wear and tear that could indicate it's one of the rare ones. A coin in mint condition is key to getting top dollar. Oh, and here's a funny story. A few years ago, I was at a flea market, just browsing around, looking for anything interesting, and I came across this old coin dealer with a bunch of nickel bags. Naturally, I asked him about any rare coins he might have, and he chuckled. He said, "Kid, everyone thinks they've got a rare nickel." Well, guess who ended up buying a bag for a few bucks and finding a 1973 nickel with a weird tint to it? Yep, I ended up making a nice little profit when I found out it had the rare error. Moral of the story: don't underestimate what's in your loose change. So, if you're out there at your local garage sale, estate sale, or even just digging through your spare change jar at home, keep an eye out. Those nickels might look pretty ordinary, but there's always the chance that one of them could be worth a small fortune. I mean, who knew a coin worth just a nickel could turn into $1 million treasure? Alright, so before you start sifting through all your change like a mad scientist, let me just remind you of this: it's not easy to find a 1973 nickel worth $1.5 million, but it is possible. And the more you learn about rare coins, the better you'll get at spotting hidden treasures. 1974 Jefferson nickel could be worth over $1.3 million. I know what you're thinking. What? A nickel? That's the same coin I toss into the parking meter every day. Trust me, you're not alone. I used to think the same thing, but turns out, some of these everyday coins are hiding massive value. Stick around, because in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to break down why your change jar might just have a treasure in it, and how you can spot a $1.3 million nickel when you see one. Let's dive into the 1974 Jefferson nickel. Now, the Jefferson nickel has been around since 1938, and you've probably seen one 100 times without thinking twice about it. But here's the kicker: not all 1974 nickels are created equal. Sure, you've got your standard run-of-the-mill ones worth, 5 cents. But there's a rare, special version of the 1974 nickel that can skyrocket in value. So how do you tell if you've got the golden ticket? First, let's talk about the condition. If your 1974 Jefferson nickel has a mint error, like a doubled die, for example, then you're in for a surprise. A doubled die happens when the die that strikes the coin has been misaligned, leaving the coin with a blurry or doubled appearance, especially around the words and numbers. If you get your hands on one of these, congrats, you've just found a rare piece of history. Now, let me tell you a quick story about my own experience with a rare coin. It was about a year ago when I was sifting through my change jar, trying to find a coin to make a quick video on. And wouldn't you know it, I found an old 1974 nickel buried in the mix. At first, I almost tossed it aside, thinking it was just another dull nickel. But something told me to take a closer look. Sure enough, there was a slight doubling on the Liberty and 1974 on the coin. I was shocked. It wasn't the exact $1.3 million version, but it was still worth a whole lot more than 5 cents. I sold it online for over $200. It wasn't $1 million find, but hey, it was a nice surprise. So, what should you do if you think you found one of these rare nickels? Well, if you spot a potential double die on your 1974 nickel, don't just jump to conclusions. Get that coin graded by a professional, because that's where the real value lies. A coin in perfect condition could be worth a small fortune, but it has to be authenticated to get the premium price. Now, let's talk numbers. The highest recorded sale for a 1974 Jefferson nickel with a double die error went for over $1.3 million. Yep, you heard that right, $1 million nickel. It's absolutely wild to think about, but the reality is, these rare coins can bring in serious cash if you know what you're looking for, but not every 1974 nickel is going to turn into $1 million payday. Still, that doesn't mean you should just ignore them. Even the regular, unblemished versions of a 1974 nickel can have some value if they're in excellent condition, especially if they've been preserved in mint sets. These coins are still selling for a pretty penny, think around $10 to $20 or more. Not bad for a nickel, right? So, what's the takeaway here? Next time you're scrounging around for loose change or digging through that old coin jar, keep an eye out for 1974 Jefferson nickels. Remember, you're not just holding on to any old coin, there's a chance you've got a $1.3 million treasure on your hands. And hey, if you want to learn more tips on spotting valuable coins, or get the latest scoop on which rare coins are worth big bucks, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I've got more exciting coin finds and money-making strategies coming your way. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on what's next. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting, because that next nickel could change your life.